All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't need that. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. How you doing, Danny?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you. Pretty soon I'm going to have you do these for me after you've been through a few. My name is Mike Devlin, and I'm with Success Realty, and this is a seminar on what's it about getting into real estate, right? And we're going to cover a couple of topics. One is why real estate. Usually when people are willing to take time off on a Monday night to come to participate in, well, something like this, it's because they're looking for something new, something different, hopefully better, perhaps in their business professional life. And if you're thinking about making a change, why would you get into real estate? What are the advantages and the disadvantages, and how much money can you really make, and what do you have to do to be successful, right? We'll talk about that. Another topic is how to choose an office to work with, because if you've decided you want to get into real estate, the next question is with whom. There's different kinds of real estate companies. They are structured and operate differently, and we'll look at some of those differences. And finally, how to get started. What do you need to do to get a real estate license? What do you need to do to keep a real estate license? How long does all this take? How much does all this cost, right? That's, is that close to what you came to? That's good, because that's what I'm going to talk about. In the why real estate category, I like to start with some definition of terms. You've heard probably these words before, broker and salesperson. Those refer to two different types of real estate licenses. In real estate, you could have a real estate broker's license, or you could have a salesperson's license. Now, a real estate salesperson can pretty much do everything that a real estate broker can do, with two exceptions, right? There's two things that you could do with a broker's license that you can't do with a salesperson's license. One of them is be independent. Brokers can be independent. Salespeople have to work for brokers, but brokers don't have to work for brokers. The broker could be independent. The second thing you could do with the broker's license is, well, you could brag about it, right? You could tell everyone that you've got the advanced license, the graduate license, the executive license. Most people have no idea what you're talking about, nor do they particularly care. Now, if you're saying being a broker, that's for me. In order to qualify as a broker in the state of California, you need 2 years full-time experience in real estate or 4 years part-time experience in real estate. And that doesn't mean you can go get a real estate salesperson's license and wait 2 years and become a broker, because somebody's going to have to sign under penalty of perjury that you've in fact been working 40 hours a week. They're going to want to know how many transactions you've closed. You understand, it's not just having a license for that period of time that qualifies you, it's actually doing something with it, right? So we'll talk about how to be a salesperson first, because, well, that's what you got to do. The word agent is a very different word, because the word agent refers to a relationship where one person, called the agent, represents another person, called the principal, in dealings with other people who are called, well, they're called other people. Anyhow, so an agent represents a principal in dealings with third parties. Now, the reason I mentioned that is because oftentimes people have said to me, if I get my real estate license and I would like to buy a property for myself or my family, can I be my own agent, right? I've heard that question many times, and the answer is no, you cannot ever be your own agent, because by definition, the word agent means somebody representing somebody else. And if you're representing yourself in a transaction, you can't be an agent in the transaction, because you're already a principal in the transaction. That, however, I admit, is a technical answer, right? And it really didn't even answer the question they were really asking me. Because the question I'm really being asked is, if I get my real estate license and I want to buy a house, can I save money on the commission? That's really the question. And the answer to that is yes, but it's not because you're an agent in the transaction. You're not, you're a principal. It's because you're a licensee. And the word licensee refers to somebody with a broker's license or a salesperson's license, and through that professional status, you might get a better deal, but you're not actually an agent, right, in the transaction. You're a principal with a license. And then there's the word realtor. And the word realtor is a copyrighted designation of the National Association of Realtors, which is a trade association, which is, well, it's like a union, right? I mean, it really is kind of like a union. It's like the Teamsters Union in a sense. And for those of you that don't know, the Teamsters is the union you might drive if you want to drive trucks, as an example, commercially. If you want to be a commercial truck driver, do you have to join the Teamsters? Is it a requirement that you join the union? And the answer is no. All you need is the right license, right? If you have the right license, you could drive trucks. You might choose to join the union, because there's some jobs you won't get if you're not a member of the union, and they have training and they have investment, and they have retirement, and they have stuff, right? So you don't have to become a realtor. The word realtor means you've joined the National Association of Realtors. You don't have to. You really just need a license. However, if you're going to sell residential property, 1 to 4 units, you're going to need to join the union. Right, and because it's through the association that we get access to the multiple listing service, the key that unlocks homes when people aren't there, and forms, the purchase agreements, addendums, and all that stuff, that all comes from union membership. Now, not everybody joins, as I'll point out later. So if you got a real estate license, there are 3 ways to have a real estate license. You could work for a broker or not work for a broker, but you have to work for a broker. That's sort of what the slide says. And the reason I have this slide, which sometimes confuses me, is because people will say to me, you know, I don't know what I want to do. Right? I'm thinking I might want to get into real estate. I'd like to get a real estate license, but I don't know who I'm going to work for or what I'm going to do. And you don't have to decide that up front. Right? You can go and take the exam and get a real estate license and not have a broker, right? Just have it on hold for and renew it every 4 years, and you could keep it alive forever. However, the license without a broker is called a non-working license. And a non-working real estate license is like a non-working car. You can show it to people, right? When your friends are at your house, you could show them the car in the garage. They can even sit in the car. But if they want to go for a ride in the car, well, you can't do that. It's not a working car, right? You understand? So your real estate license can be issued without a broker, but it's not a working license, right? In order for you to represent buyers and sellers and get paid a commission, you need to activate your license. So you probably already know that you could help people buy and sell homes and get paid a real estate commission. I bet you already knew that before you came tonight. The same is true for commercial real estate. Many times people have asked me, how do I become a commercial real estate agent? Right? I don't want to work on evenings and weekends. I just want to deal with business people during business hours. That's for me. How do I get that license? And the answer is there's no such thing. Right? There is no such thing as a commercial real estate license. There's just a real estate license. And if you have a real estate license, you can do residential and you can do commercial. I put on the market yesterday, a property in San Leandro. It's got a warehouse. It has a restaurant on it. Right? So 1.5 million in case you're interested in a nice investment, good rental property. But you can do that with the same license. You also can do loans. Now, mortgage brokers are real estate brokers, and the people that work at mortgage brokers have real estate licenses. In addition to having the real estate license, you have to get it endorsed, which means you have to take another course, and you have to take another exam, and you have to pass another exam and pay another fee, of course, and then you get what's called an MLO, a mortgage loan originator endorsement, and then you can do loans. However, the starting point still is you need a real estate license. Property management is when, if you don't own it and you don't live in it, you need a real estate license to manage it. And manage it means to find renters, to negotiate leases, to check the credit, collect the rents, that whole hassle. that whole hassle. And that requires a real estate license. It's the same license. And business opportunities is when you're selling a business but not selling the real property. For example, Harry's Hardware. Let's say you've always wanted to have a hardware store. There's a local hardware store for sale, Harry's Hardware. You're going to buy it from Harry because he's retiring. Now, Harry does not own the building, and Harry does not own the land, right? He's simply a tenant renting space who has a business. You can sell businesses with a real estate license, right? Now, you could do some of these things with other licenses, but these are the things you could do with the real estate license. Primarily, we do residential and commercial. Property management is a separate division because it involves different insurance. 75% of all lawsuits in the real estate area involve landlord-tenant disputes. Oops, by volume, 75%. It's special insurance, it's special.
You cannot be a property manager without a license?
If you live in the property or own it, you can manage it without a license. Or if you work for a corporation that owns it. But if you're being paid to find tenants, negotiate leases, take care of it, you need a real estate license. Or own it or live in it. If there's 16 or more units, somebody has to live in it, either the owner or a resident manager.
And if you own the property and you're managing it, do you need a special insurance?
No, well, do you need special insurance? No, but you ought to get it. Most lawsuits, there are a lot of lawsuits involving landlord tenants.
And what kind of insurance is that?
Well, there is special insurance for landlords.
Oh, landlord.
Right, yeah. We have insurance as well,
Okay.
right? Because when we're managing the property, you wouldn't need to do that as much.
Can you be all five
Yeah,
at the same time?
yes. I don't know of anybody that lets you do that, any company, right? And that's because business brokerage requires different insurance, right? So, for example, commercial real estate, we use different forms and a different MLS. It's not called the MLS. It's something called CoStar, right? Loans, you don't use either of them. Property managers are doing something else. Business brokerages are in a different computer system and they use different forms. Right, so very few do all of them. It's better to, think of it, if you were going to the doctor because you had foot problems, and your doctor said, well, let me look at my calendar for feet. Mondays, I deliver babies on Mondays. Tuesday is brain surgery day. Wednesday is when I'm a dermatologist. Thursdays, I do plastic. Fridays, that's when I do feet, right? Fridays. What would you think of that doctor, right? Or a lawyer that said, oh, what's your problem? I don't care, criminal, civil, I'll do anything, right? So usually it's better to specialize and learn something, right, than try to do them all. Why are people attracted to real estate careers? A question I've asked myself many times. The most common reason that people tell me they want to be in real estate is freedom and independence. A long time ago, I worked for a company, it was a long time ago, and it was a very weird company. It was strange, they had this odd system, and what it was is they expected all of us to show up at a particular time each day. It was crazy, right? It was like they had some sort of a rule, right, that everybody had to be at work at exactly the same time, and then they would let us know when we could go to lunch. Right, and at the end of the day, they would let us know when we could go home, right? I believe that is called a job, right? I think that's what that's called. Being in real estate is not like having a job. You can walk around the office, you can open the doors and look behind cabinets and things like that, and you're not going to find time clocks for agents to punch, right? You understand? It's more of having your own business. We're not going to call you at 10 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, where are you, right? It's not that kind of a thing. In fact, the relationship between the office and the sales associates is more like a business consultant and a business advisor to a business owner than it is an employer-employee relationship. Do you know what the biggest disadvantage to being in real estate is for most people? The answer is freedom and independence. Right? So that's the biggest disadvantage, because freedom is a gift not always wisely used. Right? There was the story of the guy, and it was a tech company, and this new guy starts at the tech company, and by lunchtime he runs into this old timer, somebody who's been there, it looks like forever, who's talking to him about everything that's going on. And so the new guy asks the old timer, he says, "So how long have you worked here?" And the old timer says, "Ever since they threatened to fire me." That's when you started working, right? How many of you know people like that? They work just enough so they don't get fired, right? And then, of course, the company pays them just enough so they don't quit, right? Isn't that the sick relationship they end up with? So I'll say it plainly, real estate is a non-salaried commission-only profession. How about that? Non-salaried commission-only profession, which means it can be a high-paying hard job, and it can be a very low-paying easy one, right? Depending on how you work it. Financial rewards, how much money can you make selling real estate? Well, let's say, I have some other numbers, but I'm going to just sort of freelance this. Let's say I sold a $1 million house as a real estate agent, a cheap house, right, for Silicon Valley. I make YouTube videos, and there are people that have made comments, they think I'm nuts. The median price of a home in the United States is about $300,000. The median price of a home in the state of California is under $600,000. We're about 1.2, right, in Santa Clara County. We're special, isn't that right? Right, we're special. So let's say it's a $1 million house. Typically, it could be a 6% commission. It could be, let's be conservative, a 5% commission, which would generally be split between two offices. So each side would be about 2.5%. So that would mean $25,000 would be the gross commission paid on the sale on each side of a $1 million house. So if you sold a house a month, right, in 1 year you listed 6 homes and sold 6 homes, averaging 12 transactions at $1 million each, that would be $300,000 in gross commission income from one transaction a month, right? You can imagine what happens when you get to one a week, right? Anyhow. Now, I know what you're probably thinking is that if you made $1 million selling real estate, you'd have no idea how to spend all that money. I'm sure that was your first big concern, right, when you were thinking about that. What would we possibly do? Well, one of the things you could do is invest in real estate. There's an old line by Will Rogers who said, buy land, they're not making any more of it. And if you wanted to be an investor in real estate, being in real estate is a good place to be. Right, you find out about properties before other people do. You know more about financing alternatives and where the market is going up and down. So we oftentimes live on our commissions, but retire on our investments, right? Investment opportunities and security. This may seem like an odd one, but I had a friend who went to San Jose State, mechanical engineering, goes to work for Hitachi, hard drive division. 28.5 years later, they laid him off. Nothing personal, right? They said nothing personal. It wasn't personal. They shut down the department, closed the division. The whole plant is gone. Right now, I'm not saying he was a perfect engineer, but even if he had been a perfect engineer, he still would have been laid off. Right? It wasn't that somebody said you're not doing a good job. They just said we don't need anyone to do that job here. Now, not anymore. So being in real estate, because you're an independent contractor, you can be bad at it, you can fail at it, but you really can't get fired. Right? You understand? If you're doing a good job, you're an independent contractor. If you don't get along with us, you could take your license and go work for somebody else. If you can't get along with anyone, tough it out for 2 years and go get your broker's license, and then you can be all alone, I guess. I don't know, right? You understand you can fail, but you can't get fired, right? And there's some security in that. So what are the traits of a successful agent? I don't know how much time I'm going to spend on this, other than to point out they all magically begin with the letter E. took me a long time to work that out. Some of the things we're talking about is ethics. If we know that 40% of the time when they ask buyers and sellers, how did you find your real estate agent? They say we were referred by a family, friend, or coworker 40% of the time. Right? So where will you meet people that are interested in buying and selling real estate and family friends? And then about another 12% of the time, it's repeat business. They'd worked with the agent before. How do you get repeat and referral business? You have to do a good job with the people the first time you get them, just like a restaurant, right? You understand it. If you have a restaurant, it's really difficult if no one will eat there twice. Right? You know, I mean, you need new customers every day because no one comes back, right? That's not a good plan. So ego drive really means self-confidence, but it didn't, self-confidence didn't begin with E, and I was doing the E thing. Where I'm going with this is that real estate does involve sales. There I said it. Right. Being in real estate involves being in sales, professional selling. Now, it's more than that, because like if you were in sales for a tech company, they don't expect you to write the code or build the product, right? You understand? You sell it and then somebody else takes care of it. In real estate, you're doing the whole thing. And it's like a restaurant. It's like having a seafood restaurant and also owning your own fishing boat. It's important that the restaurant has a good cook and you have good recipes and you're in a good location and you've got, you know, good things for people to eat on and you've got trained staff. However, if you don't go and get in the boat and go out in the morning fishing, it doesn't matter, right, how nice the restaurant looks because you have nothing to serve, right? So all businesses are two businesses, right? If I'm a dentist, there's two businesses. One business is teeth, but the other business is how do I get patients, right? If I'm a lawyer, I got two businesses. One is law, the other one is how do I get clients? Is everybody, you know, with me? And in real estate, there are two businesses, right? One is the business of real estate and the other is the business of getting clients. Now, how do you get clients? Well, you would talk to the people you know. And then what you might do after that might depend more on you than any rote thing. Different people with different personality styles are attracted to different ways of interacting with people. Some people that are more analytical are more involved in doing things on the internet. That, you know, some people are more comfortable at open houses when people talk to them. Some people like going in neighborhoods and talking to people. Some people like networking events. You understand, there are many different ways of doing it. Energy, I'll talk about that. You don't punch a time clock, but you don't sleep till noon either, right? It can, as I said, be a high-paying, hard job and a low-paying, easy one. And it's not just that people that are in real estate put in time. If you were thinking of buying or selling a house, when would you be talking to your real estate agent? The answer is evenings and weekends. Isn't that when you'd be talking to your real estate agent? So how do you feel about working evenings and weekends? You know, if you don't like working evenings and weekends, then well, that might be an issue, right? Talk to me about commercial real estate, right? So that's the only place where you don't work evenings and weekends. Education. Getting a real estate license is like getting a fishing license, in that the license does not catch fish. Isn't that right? You can have a fishing license and no fish, right? Because it's how much do you know about fishing? Where to fish, when to fish, how to fish, what kind of bait to use, right? That determines the amount of fish you're going to catch, not the fact that you have a license. Some people, I think, believe you get your real estate license and you put it on the wall and then you wait and then people come by the office and they drop off money. Isn't that how it works? And there's actually some steps in between those. And you don't have to be a natural born salesperson. You have what we're going to talk about are things that can be taught and learned, right? You just need to learn them. So what is needed to succeed? A goal, plan, schedule, training, coaching, all that stuff would be useful. Let's use my one closed transaction a month example. That's 12 transactions. that would be $300,000 in gross commission income. What we would do is back up from that and say, okay, how many appointments are you going to need to have with buyers or sellers of real estate to close a real estate transaction? Let's say that number is 4. Right now, over time, it'll get better. With help, it would be better. But let's say you're going to need to have 4 appointments with people that are thinking of buying or selling or investing in real estate before you find somebody that actually buys, sells, or invests in real estate. So if you had 1 appointment a week for 48 weeks, and you converted 25% of those appointments, that would be 12 transactions from 1 appointment a week. And that's taking a month off. 48 weeks, you take a month off, 1 appointment a week. You might need to book more than 1 appointment a week to actually have 1 appointment a week, because they don't always show. I hate to break that to you, they don't always show. Does that sound like heavy lifting, an appointment a week? Does that sound like it? In the many jobs I've had, I'd be fired if I only had an appointment a week, right? How about if you had an appointment a day? First of all, your rate of conversion would be much higher than 25%, because you'd get better at it. Right? You'd be better at it. So now the question is, all right, appointment a week, that doesn't sound so bad. How do I get an appointment a week? Right? And that basically means you're going to have conversations with people about buying or selling real estate. And the good news is that real estate is something pretty much everybody wants. What percentage of the public are going to buy or sell real estate, if not now, sometime in the future? Pretty much everyone, right? Everyone you know, everyone you meet is a potential candidate. It's just that they're not ready all right now. Do you have a question?
Yeah, to do a 1 a week, what's your lead time to get that 1 a week?
I did a home buying seminar on Tuesday. I had an appointment on Saturday, and we wrote offers on Sunday. Right, that's quicker than normal, but it doesn't have to be very long. I've had people call me on a Friday to meet Saturday morning, and they bought a house Sunday. Sometimes not long. Sometimes people start a year in advance thinking about it, talking to people. Right, so it all depends.
Like for myself, us here that don't have that kind of experience, I mean, you can do this in your sleep, right? So.
I am sleeping right now, as a matter of fact.
And it's trying to get that lead time.
Well, so what I do with agents, so I coach and mentor agents, right? And we can't teach you everything you need to know in advance, right? Even if we did, it would help, but it wouldn't be enough, right? It's just like you go to medical school, there's still a difference the first time you're operating on a live patient. So what I coach people to do at the beginning is to get the appointment. And then I'll help you with the appointment. And then they can ask any questions they want. I'll answer their questions, and then you'll learn by hearing them ask questions and me answer the questions that it takes a huge burden off of you, right? All you have to do is get the appointment, right? And then, after a few appointments, you'll get tired of hearing me say the same thing every time. I could do that. And so the home buying seminars, have you been to one of mine? There's a couple coming up. One is next Thursday at Wells Fargo, I think, and a Thursday after that at Key Point Credit Union, which is one of the relationships we have. Key Point Credit Union is Apple's credit union among 80 other tech companies. You've heard of Apple? Yeah. So it's a big credit union. We'll be doing it at the Rivermark branch. But some of the people that I brought on that were new agents that went through my school and that I'm mentoring are actually going to do pieces of the presentation. You get to hear Ping do parts of her presentation, and next time Pyle will have to do something, whether she wants to or not. All right, so now we're talking about how many conversations do you have to have with people that are thinking of buying or selling real estate to get an appointment? All right, now your mileage may vary, but it might be 50. So 50 conversations produce an appointment. 4 appointments produce a transaction. 1 transaction is about $25,000. So that means on a normal week, 5 days a week, you would have 10 conversations a day, right? If you talk to 10 people a day about real estate 5 days a week, that would be 50 a week, which could produce the appointment a week, which could produce the transaction a month, which you might be able to live on, 300,000, right? You might be able to live on that. Right? You have to cut back some, but you know, you might be able to live on that. I already sort of explained about the commission thing. This is a 6% example. That is about how many transactions you make. Now, the thing about real estate is the more you make, the more you make. So what we have is a progressive commission plan. And what that starts with on the first few transactions where I am actually going on appointments and doing a lot more heavy lifting, you get 60 and 40% goes to the office. Then it jumps to 70-30 after 3 transactions, goes up to 80-20 and goes all the way up to 90-10, which is more. But as it shows, as you progress, you need less help. Frankly, I drag people through their first 4 or 5 transactions because, you know, it's just the only way to do it.
But
There- yeah.
90-10, how many transactions?
It's about 10, it's about 7 million in volume, so it's about 7 to 10 transactions. If you're doing that consistently. Doesn't sound like a lot, but our prices are high. So that's just what the difference is. There is a teeter-totter relationship between service and the commissions. The company that really exemplified this is called Remax. They've changed over the years because their original idea, you know, soured a little bit. But the original Remax plan was the 100% commission office. So if you sold the house, a 2.5% side, $1 million, $25,000 gross commission, you got $25,000. If you worked at Remax, you got 100% of the commission. Does that sound good? Right, sounds great, doesn't it? Now, if you've ever owned a business, you might be asking the question, so how do they keep their lights on at night? Right? You understand, if I had a shoe store and I sold shoes for $100 and I paid the salesperson $100 to sell the shoes for $100, I must be doing something in the back room. Right? You understand? There's got to be something else going on because how do you make any money at that? And so what Remax did was 2 things. One was called the break-even number. And what the break-even number was is they take all the expenses of the office every month, everything, the rent, the utilities, the janitor, the receptionist, the lease of the copy machines, every dime they spent, and they would divide by the number of salespeople. And each salesperson would get a bill for the break-even number. And if everyone paid their bill, then they broke even. Right? Now, again, if you're in business, it's not to break even. Right? You understand? You might as well stay in bed. There's no reason to even get out. If you're only going to break even, right? You're already even. You might as well just stay put. So what they would do on top of the break-even number is add the desk fee. And the desk fee would range for $150 or so for a workstation to, you want a private office, $3,000 a month. You'd sign a 2-year lease and you owe them the money whether you sold a house or not. Whether you sold a house or not. Did they have a training program? Of course not, it's 100%. Did they help you with marketing? No, it's 100%. Was there somebody to help you with your transactions? It's 100%, right? You know, this was an executive suite rental business, really, for real estate agents, right? That's really what it was, right? They don't do that anymore because it didn't quite work as well. But you understand what I'm saying, as one goes up, what they do goes down, right? And at the beginning, you need the help and support. You need the help and support. What are your choices? You could be a referral-only agent. That means you don't join the union and all that. You could join a team. I have a team. Other agents do. I have a mentoring program. We have part-time agents. I call them dual career because it sounds classier, I think, where people have other jobs and things like that. When I do stuff for coaching and training, I broadcast it through GoToWebinar. I record them. I have a YouTube channel with almost 1,000 subscribers, and between my YouTube and GoToWebinar, more than 500 real estate videos, right, on various things. And there are full-time agents as well. Those are the different ones. So when you're looking at an office, in my background, I used to be the director of training for Century 21 for Northern California, Northern Nevada for 5 years. See if anyone does this math. I was the vice president of the largest Century 21 group in the Bay Area for 21 years. I was the productivity coach and trainer for a little company called Keller Williams for 7 years. And so I worked with what I would refer to as the big box companies. The owner of the office, Terry Jarouche, and her family also own Shoe Palace, among other things. And I had met her. She and I had worked at the same office for 14 years before she launched this. So I've gotten tired, frankly, of the big box offices, right? The big box offices are Coldwell Banker. By the way, the company that owns Coldwell Banker also owns Century 21, also owns ERA, also owns Better Homes and Gardens, also owns Klein Realty, also owns Sotheby's, also owns Zip Realty, right? Those are all owned by one group. Berkshire Hathaway also owns Intero. They bought out Prudential. Those are all owned by another group. Compass, which bought Alon Pinnell and Pacific Union, right? Most of these are mergers. Those are the big boxes, right? And they have different niches. To me, having worked in them for a while, it's the difference between eating at McDonald's and the local restaurant, right? You understand? Keller Williams and Century 21 and Coldwell Banker and Intero, those are more of the McDonald's of real estate, right? They're franchises, right? I don't know if you knew that. All the Keller Williams are franchises. All the Century 21s are franchises. Some of the Coldwell Bankers, some of the Interos are, all the Berkshire Hathaways are franchises, right? They're franchises, right? So they all have the same logo. They have the same training. They do the same things. It's like McDonald's, right? You understand? But just because McDonald's and Subway, just because they serve more people, that does not mean they have the best food, right? You know, I know people that don't want to drink at Starbucks because they think it's, you know, just not that good, right? You know, but you get the idea. They're well known, right? All those names you've heard of before. They have training. It's one size fits all. You're given the same training as they use in LA or Texas or Florida or New York City. Right? It's the same thing, one thing, we only have one. There are little boutiques. We're sort of in that, but we're combining, as you can see, this is actually a training room. When I'm recruiting people, and I'll admit it, I'm a recruiter, I show people this room because Coldwell Banker, Intero, Remax, they do not have rooms like this. Compass, they do not have rooms like this, right? Do you know why that those companies, Intero and Coldwell Banker and Compass, don't have training rooms? Because they don't do training. How about that? Right. That's why they don't have a training room. Why would you need a training room if you're not doing any training? You know. And so obviously we do training, right? We've got through a bunch of them. But most of the smaller ones, like Sereno is a large boutique. They got no training, right? They don't do training. That's not that. You understand, different offices have different niches. And for some of them, they're only interested in people that already know what they are doing and they don't need any training. We grow our own. Cloud brokerages, this is a newer thing, but there are some real estate offices that exist only in the cloud. They have, hey, how you doing? They have no offices anywhere, right? The biggest one of these, for their training, I'm not kidding, they have this little virtual world, and so you create a little avatar, a little cartoon of yourself, and you go up to this world and you walk around and you go sit in this, you know, little cartoon hall, and some other person walks in, and then there's a little screen and they talk. That's the training, right? They have no offices, right? No offices, no physical space. The training is for everyone in the United States, so there's nothing about what's going on in Santa Clara County, right? Nothing about our laws, nothing about our, well, you get the idea. We feel that we're the boutique brokerage, but we also do the training that most offices don't. So I talked a little bit about this. The things that are most important when you're new are coaching, training, and mentoring. Training is the most obvious because it's sitting in a room like this where somebody like me is talking, and it's either online or in person. Coaching, remember when I said, well, if the goal is one a month and we have to have so many appointments, which means you have to have so many contacts, and then now what are we going to do in order to get the contacts? That's what coaching would look like. Plus regular meetings every week on, how are we doing? And mentoring actually means going with somebody on appointments and talking to clients and answering questions and all of that sort of stuff. Any questions about this so far?
So, Michael, I'm sorry.
Good.
How to get the clients or generate new leads? So do you guys help with that initially or?
No. Well, I mean, by help, it depends on what you mean by the word help.
Yeah, I mean, how to do marketing or?
Right, well, we teach you how to do it. We teach you how to fish,
No.
right? We even give you bait, but we don't fish, right? So, because that's the job. And sometimes people come from the mindset, well, who's going to give me the leads to work on? Which means you don't understand the job, right? Because that's the job, right? The job this is why I mentioned the S word, right? This is a sales job. Now, what you do to get there are many paths to the top of the mountain, right? Many ways to get there. And for some people that are more, for example, I suggest that people take something called a DISC, which is a personality assessment. And depending upon your primary attributes as to whether or not your personality is more formal or informal, more outgoing or more or less so, there are certain types of connections you could make with people that would be more obvious. So for example, I have some people that are a high driver, they're very outgoing, only results oriented, not too much into relationship. Some of those people make phone calls a lot because they don't care and that's the quickest way. Some other people have what's called an influencer, which is much more outgoing but relationship oriented, and those people do better at networking events, right? And some of them go out in neighborhoods and talk to people because they like going around talking to people, right? I mean, have you ever met somebody that telling some people you're going to go to a networking event and talk to people? They're like, when does the work start? That sounds like fun, right? But not everybody feels that way. If you're more analytical, there's ways of developing business by getting leads from the internet, which requires thinking a lot, right? Looking at data and what kinds of keywords and things like that are working and what kind of content we create, what kind of calls to action, right? And then people that have a more supportive style, which is relationship based but not that outgoing, do better at open houses and other events where people come to them, right? Because they don't want to go to people, right? So among the two groups, the top group, one group are we want to go get it kind of group. And the other group is we want people to come to us, right? But they do it differently. So there are many ways of doing it. And what as I said, Century 21 and the material that Century 21 uses is the same as Coldwell Banker, Better Homes and Gardens, because it's the same company, and Keller Williams. And what bothers me, I'll put it that way, about most new agent training programs is it's a one size fits all. And so they have a plan for everybody, but it's the same plan, right? And it usually involves things that most people don't want to do. And they're basically going to say, this is the plan. The plan is you're going to go knock on doors, you're going to call people that are for sale by owners or expired listings, which is, I don't teach people to do that because it doesn't work very well. And you have to have the right mindset to stand that. And that's just all they teach you to do, but that's not the only way to do it. Right? I'll give you an example. So this is something that let's say you were of the more I'll just say it. So one of the things I teach new agents to do is what I call Operation Donut Drop. It's not about the donuts. But I'll forget the donut part. I would suggest that you would go talk to 2 loan agents a day, 5 days a week for 4 weeks. And there's different types of loan agents. And I have sort of a why are you doing it? And the answer is because loan agents, certainly the ones at big banks like Bank of America, if I'm a loan agent at Bank of America, I can pretty much sit at my desk and people will walk up to me and say, excuse me, can I talk to you about getting a loan? I'm thinking of buying a house, right? That's the advantage of working for a big bank. It's expensive retail space and people walk in. So what we're looking to do is to cooperate, work with that loan agent in order so they could refer us business and we could refer them business this coming Thursday, this Thursday. And since I've captured your information, probably by now you'll get an invitation. I'm doing a home buying seminar with Wells Fargo. And what happened is one of the agents that I coach, Ping is her name, made the contact. She listened to me. She met a loan agent from Wells Fargo. I'm going to do most of the presentation, but the loan agent, Ping's going to do something. But we're doing a home buying seminar with Wells Fargo. The last one I did with Key Point was in their Sunnyvale office at the credit union. 45 people showed up. And the one we did the month before in Cupertino, because they're right next to the Apple campus, they have a branch, we had 75 people show up. So the goal, if you understand, after 40 lenders that you've talked to, I have a follow-up system. You send them a handwritten note. You want to have coffee with them. You put them on, you send them your newsletter. Anyhow, there's a system, but the goal is to get 5 of them to refer 2 people a year to you out of the 40. And a good loan agent could refer 4 if they liked you. And if you're doing open houses, you would invite the loan agent to do open houses with you because they would like to, because they have a better chance of making a deal from that than you do, right? There's more people that'll switch lenders than will switch agents. I'm just saying, right? Yeah. So while you're doing all this, do you understand, do you think that would be possible that you could find 5 lenders that would refer every 6 months somebody to you if you followed up and kept up with them? That's 10 clients, right? And then there's the question of everybody else, right? So for example, if I were going to sell my home, would I probably talk to a painter, a landscaper, maybe a plumber, a kitchen remodeler, right? And so if you were a real estate agent and I called up, I was at a realtors meeting and the guy came up and he gave me his card and he has a local moving company. And I said, oh, that's fantastic, a moving company. I'm putting together a preferred vendor list for my client database and I need a good moving company. What do you think his reaction was to hear it? Yes, so let's talk, right? So by building relationships with all of those vendors, CPAs and tax attorneys, and you get the idea. All of the people that would be involved in a real estate transaction and following up with them and networking with them, you understand, you can do business just from that. Some agents focus on selling new home subdivisions. Some people, there's a lot of different ways. And so what we would do is try to match your personality style, and because what you do easily is what you'll do best, right? And if certain things would work better, then we'll show you how to do that. Other people, they'll do other things. I don't know if that helped or not. But I have specifics. I'm willing to tell you specifics. All right.
When you provide the home buying seminar, how did you advertise that?
Well, this is what I like about credit unions, right? So banks are different than mortgage companies, and credit unions, they're all different. And I'm not talking about loans. This has nothing to do with loans. Big banks have expensive retail space and people walk in, right? And so what we want to do with the bank, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, is to tap into their existing flow of people by doing what's called a mortgage day, where it's at the bank, it's like a booth at the bank, and home buying seminars at the branch. Now, that's good, but Wells Fargo, for example, is going to put up flyers at the branch, but that's not much, they can't do much else, right? Now, they can't, I'll just say it plainly, the loan agent at Wells Fargo does not have the ability to send an email to everybody in the branch, right? Or for that matter, do anything to Wells Fargo's website. Can't do that. Credit unions are different. In the credit unions, well, how did 75 people end up at the Cupertino Key Point Credit Union? And the answer is they invited their 80,000 members. That's why. And because they can do that. The vice president of mortgage services at the credit union could submit a request to marketing, and they sent an email to everybody. Also on their webpage is a link to a webpage that I own. Right, now that would never happen at Bank of America, right? You understand, my webpage is not going to get linked into Bank of America's webpage. That will not ever happen. So credit unions are different in that they actually will invite members, which is something that banks won't do. Mortgage companies are generally not in high traffic locations. They're in a B-class office building in the back on the upstairs next to the elevator kind of a thing. No one's walking in, but they'll do other things with you. So by targeting which kinds of lenders are more likely to naturally have leads, right? Credit unions are naturally have leads. All right. How to get started. So in order to get a real estate license in California, you have to do two things. One of them is you have to complete 3 college level courses in real estate. You don't have to go to college, right? That's included in our program. And you have to pass a test given by the California Department of Real Estate. Those are 2 different things. And when you've done those 2 things, you can then apply to take the state exam, or to get a license. So before you can take the state exam, you have to complete a college level course in real estate principles, a college level course in real estate practice, and an elective from this list. Now, on the list is accounting, economics, and business law. If you've ever taken accounting, economics, or business law from a junior college or better, and can get your hands on a copy of the transcript, it doesn't have to be original. This is not like applying to Harvard. You know, you have the 3rd course. Now by the way, they don't care how long ago it was that you took the college level course, and accounting could come from other countries because it's accounting, right? Which, I mean, really, what's the difference, right? You know, accounting fundamentally hasn't changed since the time of the Babylonians. It's pretty much the same everywhere, right? Now we use legal aspects of real estate as our elective in our package because it's the one the Department of Real Estate will ask you the most questions about, right? If you have an accounting degree, that might satisfy one of the courses, but they're not going to ask you accounting questions on the state exam, right? But they will ask you legal aspects of real estate. So how would you get these 3 college courses? Well, you could go to college. Hardly anyone does that anymore because it's expensive and very time consuming. Our module involves an online college level course. And the way an online college level course works is like this. You enroll in the course, you log into the website. That's important because it starts a timer. And after 18 days, you're eligible to take the final exam. You don't have to take it in 18 days, but you can't take it any sooner. And the final exams for the college level courses are online final exams. You can take them at home, and they're open book tests. Let me go over that one more time. The final exams for the 3 college level courses are online, at home, open book, cheat as much as you want to final exams. You understand? You can cheat as much as you want to. They give you 3 hours to get 75 out of 100 questions correct. Did I mention that this is an open book test? This is why they make you wait 18 days, because you could pass right now. If we gave you a copy of the book and an internet connection and logged you in 3 hours, you could find 75 answers just by going through Wikipedia, right? You know, and then that would make this whole thing look like a sham, wouldn't it? So they make you wait 18 days.
Are they multiple choice?
They're all multiple choice. or multiple guess, right? Depending on how much studying you've done. So this is not the hard part. Does everybody understand that? Getting the 3 college level certificates is not really a very hard thing. After you've done that, you can now go take the state exam. The state exam is 150 multiple guess, multiple choice questions. A, B, C, D, pick the best answer, no essay, no short answer, no true false. And it's not an open book test. You can't take it at home. You have to go to the Department of Real Estate facility to take the test. They give the test in 5 locations: Oakland, Sacramento, Fresno, Orange County, and San Diego. That's it, right? You have to go there and take the test. Not open book. No, they're really paranoid that you're going to cheat them. They walk around watching you, it's that sort of thing. You have to get 70% of the questions right in order to pass. Does that sound like a high score to require? Does that sound like a really high score? Let's say you were laying on the operating table and your brain surgeon walked in and he's pulling on his gloves and he says, look, I may be new at this, but don't worry, I passed the brain surgeon's exam. I got 70%. I nailed that test, right? I got 70% right. Doesn't that sound great? Right, and you might be thinking, wait a second, he missed more than 1 out of every 4 questions they asked him about the subject of brain surgery. That doesn't sound very good, does it? Right, I mean, the 30% he didn't know, maybe that's what he's doing to me, right? That would be, so my point is, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to get a real estate license. You may have already noticed that, right? You don't have to be a brain surgeon to get all you have to do is get 70% of the questions right and you're in, right? And that's not necessarily a high score. Having said that, every time the Department of Real Estate gives the test, they fail more than 50% of the people that are in the room. And many of those people, they have failed before. My guesstimate is, which is a somewhat empirical estimate, I get a list every week from the state of California of people that are taking the test. So I can see who's been on the list before and before and before and before and before, right? And it's almost 70% of the people that take the exam seem to fail it because they're doing it again. The Department of Real Estate admits that every time they give the exam, less than half the people pass it. Over 50% fail it every time they give the test. Of those people that are failing, the nearly 70% who fail on the first try, the over 50% who fail every time they give the test, how many of those people were able to successfully complete those 3 online, open book, cheat as much as you want to college courses? How many of them were able to get through the 3 college courses? And the answer is they all did. They all did. That's the answer. Because they won't even let you take the state exam without doing the 3 college courses, right? They all had the 3 college courses. My point is not subtle. Doing the 3 college courses does not mean you're getting a real estate license. All right, does not mean you're getting a real estate license. It means you've done the minimum amount necessary to go take a shot at the test. What I do is I teach people how to pass the exam. I have 12 classes. They're live, sort of, Wednesdays from 6:30 to 8:30. They're sliced like a pizza in that they're warm and cheesy, or they're sliced like a pizza in that there's no first slice to a pizza. Isn't that right? Right. The pizza, if somebody said, well, which is the first piece, you think something was wrong with them, just take one, right? You understand? There isn't a first piece. So I don't really have a first class either. They're all independent modules. They don't build on each other. You could start at any point. You could take them in any order, and you can repeat them as often as you can stand it. Having said that, this Wednesday happens to be number 1, right? I'm just saying, right? And there are some people that just feel better starting with number 1, right? But you'll notice that people will be joining all the way throughout it. They're broadcast on the internet and they're recorded. You can watch the replays as often as you can stand it. The program costs $598 for everything: live classes in the room, practice testing program, Saturday workshop, college level, everything is in that price. I also offer for people that are out of the area and can't come live a reduced price, and this workshop is included in those other two. Some people, I meet people that have failed the exam. I have met many people that have failed more than 10 times. It's just a ridiculous number of people who fail more than that, and so sometimes I just want the Saturday workshop. College level, these are the components of the course. The college level credit comes from an affiliate of ours called Online Ed. Online Ed is approved by the California Department of Real Estate to issue the certificates of completion necessary to go take the exam. I do not teach the college level course. I teach people how to pass the exam, and the practice testing comes from a friend of ours called Real Estate Trainers. Let me just say something about this. I do this differently than anyone else that I know of. My background in preparing people to pass the real estate exam comes from being at a company called Anthony Schools, which you'd have to be older to remember. Was the largest real estate training company in California. I was the academic director of Anthony Schools. This was before, yes, don't do the math. Anyhow, it was a while ago. I was 9 years old when I was the academic director of Anthony Schools. So I don't teach the college level courses, and this is why. What most of the companies do is they have live classes that teach the college courses, but they do it in a shortened version. This is why I don't do that. Many years ago, I wanted to get my material approved for real estate principles credit. So I applied, called the department where they send you the forms, and they have a rule, and the rule was something like, they wanted the textbook that I was going to use. I was writing my own, and they wanted the textbook, and the textbook had to be a minimum of 400 pages long with an average of 300 words on a page, something like that. And they wanted a physical copy of the book. So I asked the guy, how will you know, right? How many pages there are and words on the, how are you going to know that? And they said, oh, well, we have a guy, and he's going to take your book, and he's going to randomly pick out pages and count how many words are on them, so that they'll come up with the average words on a page count. And then they're going to go through your book, and they're only going to look for pages with words. You don't get credit for forms, graphs, charts, pictures, and things like that. So they'll identify how many pages of words you have and your average words on a page, and they multiply the two together, and if it's above the right number, your book is approved. And if it's below the number, your book is rejected. I asked the guy, will anyone read my book? And he said, we don't have time to read your book. And I said, so you're going to weigh the book. You're going to weigh the book. Now, one of the things that hit me was I would teach this class, and there's a subject called RESPA, R-E-S-P-A. And RESPA stands for the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. And I would tell people there's only 4 things you need to know really to pass the state exam about RESPA. And then some guy said, well, you've got like 12 pages in your book on RESPA, right? But why are there 12 pages in the book when there's only 4 things we need to know? And I found myself saying to him, because I needed 400 pages. That's why, right? That's why. Not because it's, so the average, so I don't do that anymore, right? The principles book is about 500 pages long. Most of it will not be on the state exam. The practices book is about 500 pages long, and most of it is in principles already. Almost 80% of what's in practice is in principles. If you go through the textbooks, you'll see they have some of the same chapter headings. Flip through, you'll see some of the same diagrams, forms, and pictures. Then the legal aspects of real estate is about 500 pages long. Most of it will not be on the state exam, and much of it was covered in principles and practices. So what you end up getting by the time you've done through the 3 college courses is 1,500 pages. Most of it will not be on the state exam, and most of it duplicates each other. And it's your job to figure out of all of that mess, what is the Department of Real Estate going to actually ask me questions about, right? So I don't teach by the way, I've taught at colleges too, right? So it's not like I'm against the idea. These are colleagues level, not college. These are not textbooks you're ever going to use. These are not reference manuals that manuals that you will refer to. They mostly talk about loans that do not exist in the real world, right? You know, they're textbooks that are more theoretical and abstract than practical. So I don't worry about that, right? You understand? You do the college level course with that online open book, cheat as much as you want to program, and then I focus on what you need to know to get a real estate license. See, I'm not trying to do everything at once. It's like painting a house, you have more than one coat. So all I'm working on at this level is getting you through the real estate exam. That's how to get the fishing license. We have how to fish classes also, but that comes next, right? You understand? And a lot of times the college courses are taught by real estate offices, right? They have agents teach them because the agent is going to tell people about their experiences in real estate, and that's how you're going to learn. That's not a good idea for passing a licensing exam. This would be like going to a Department of Motor Vehicles course taught by cab drivers on the assumptions they drive a lot, therefore they must be good at it, right? Does the cab driver know what a green octagonal sign is for? I'll bet not, right? Nor do they care, right? You understand, just because somebody is selling real estate doesn't mean they know what the Department of Real Estate wants you to know to get a license. Those are two entirely different things. All right, so there's the system. College courses and live classes you do at the same time. There's a extensive practice testing and a Saturday workshop before you go take the exam.
So what is Saturday workshop?
What?
What is Saturday workshop?
It's in this room.
No, it's another class or?
It's included. It's a Saturday. It's a cram class,
Oh,
right? Ever take a crams class for school or something? Yes, that's what it is. It's a shove we give you right before you go take the test. All day. It's an all-day cram class before you go take the exam. I think that's the technical educational term. Yes.
If for some reason you failed one of the college,
You can take it again
and how soon can you take it?
within 18 days. It's just, you get 3 hours. It's, you know. So I have a very high pass rate. Virtually everyone who goes through the course passes the exam on the first try. We'll help you find an office if you want to work. We invite you to come and sit through a class for free as our guest, no cost or obligation. How long does it take? 18 days, about 2.5 weeks for principals. You can't start, so after 18 days, the final exam is unlocked, but you don't have to take it. Then practice begins. In 18 days, that final exam is unlocked, but you don't have to take it yet. Then in another 18 days, 2.5 weeks, the third one is unlocked. You should be thinking about taking it. Now, what I'm saying is that some people wait until they've gone through all the classes and then they take all 3 final exams right together, because they're mostly the same kinds of questions some of the questions are the same on all 3 tests. Same. So if you did this as fast as possible, that's 7.5 weeks. You can't apply to take the state exam until you have certificates of completion from the 3 college courses. Right now, the Department of Real Estate is taking 8 weeks to give people test dates. Right? If you'd done everything and applied today, it would be 8 weeks before you were taking the exam. Hence, 3.5 to 6 months. One reason it takes so long is they want fingerprints. And you get your fingerprints taken. It's an easy thing to do. UPS, Postal Annex, and a bunch of places take fingerprints for a nominal fee. If you threw a rock through the window of the police department, they would come and do it for free.
Yes.
They'd be quickly they'd be taking your fingerprints. And that process takes 6 weeks to do the fingerprint check, which is one reason it takes them 8 weeks to give you a test date, because it takes 6 weeks to do that. If you've had your fingerprints taken, they don't care, right? If you say, well, I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, I'm in law enforcement, they don't care. Everybody has to go get their fingerprints taken again, fill out the form, pay the fee, and send it in. Right. Your license is good for 4 years. Every 4 years, you have to complete 45 hours of continuing education to renew. That's information on, if you want more information. I have relatively good Yelp reviews. One of the things that happened last year is I stopped advertising on Yelp. And so they filtered over 100 of my 5-star reviews. They say it had nothing to do with me not advertising. However, I have this feeling if I started advertising again, they might reappear. They're still there, by the way, in the filtered reviews, and there's a lot more of them. But I had a screenshot before they did this, and I realized this is very embarrassing because I had 123 reviews at the time, and you can see I've had one terrible review so far. Right. I've had one bad review. I've gotten over it. My one 4-star review since 2012. I have had one 4-star review. And now it's actually more than 150 5-star reviews, but you have to look at the filtered ones. Some of the people this is what Yelp told me is that the reviews all said the same thing, that the course was great and they passed and they recommended it. They said they all said the same thing, so we filtered them out. And I was like, really? Really? That's an interesting system. Maybe, yeah. So if you read the reviews, some people got really into it. They took pictures of their license. They wrote really long reviews, if you care. If you'd like to come to the class on Wednesday, that would be great. You go to my website. There's a thing that says free guest lesson. There's also a class schedule. If you want to sign up, when of course you do, you click on the sign up now. And so the choices are, this is everything together, live classes in the room. And you could still do the webinar if you wanted to. You can still watch the videos if you wanted to. It includes the college courses, everything for $598. If you can't come to the live classes, it's a little less expensive. And then I have people that have taken the college courses elsewhere but can't pass the exam, and so I have some options for them. When you sign up, you're going to get, this is just a screenshot of what it looks like. You don't have to do this. This is included in the course. You're going to get the textbook for the college courses is a PDF. Now, you could buy a book if you wanted one, but you're not going to want this book. And the fact that it's a PDF actually has advantages. So let's say you're taking the exam right now, and there's a question on FIRPTA. FIRPTA is FIRPTA. And you might be thinking, I have no idea what FIRPTA is talking about. But if you've got a PDF, you could do Control F or Command F, depending on your religion, depending on your religion, and type in FIRPTA. And guess what? It's going to show you every place in that book where FIRPTA is discussed. Right? FIRPTA is the Foreign Investment Tax Recovery Act. It involves a tax that is on people that are not citizens of the United States but are selling real estate here, that haven't filled out all the paperwork. You get the idea. There's an advantage to having that. Plus, this is not a book you're going to want to keep, but you could buy one if you wanted to. That's not included. Any questions about?
So on the pre-req, you say I'm taking accounting,
Yeah.
and I have proof. Where do I turn in the proof?
You wait until you're about to apply to take the state exam. And then you include that with your application. The application form has a checklist, and one of the things are copies of your certificates of completion. People are oftentimes asking me, where do I upload them and stuff like that. The Department of Real Estate doesn't answer their phone, let alone let you upload things. This is like saying, I need to submit something to the Department of Motor Vehicles. Can I do that online? No. You have to make an appointment or go there and get a ticket and go sit in one of those chairs and wait 6 hours, right? And then hand it to them, right? That's the Department of Real Estate. You have to mail it to them. They do not allow you to submit applications online or submitting anything online. They don't even like to use email.
So when I turn in the forms and all of that, how long does it take for them to respond to say, yeah?
They cash your check in a week, right? They cash the check right away. But then nothing will happen. people always excited, oh, they cashed my check, it was only 4 days ago they cashed my check. Oh, it's gonna happen. I'm like, no, it's not. They're good at cashing checks. Right, but then they wait for the Department of Justice to do the report. They don't communicate with you while this is happening other than the cancel check. Right, and then they wait for the Department of Justice report to come in, that's 6 weeks. So nothing is going to happen for 6 weeks, right? Unless you did something wrong, and then in 4 weeks, they'll write you a letter saying you did something wrong on the form and you need to redo it. Other than that, you won't hear from them until it's ready to take the test.
So the process seems to be taking longer than the classes that you did.
Yes, right. People sometimes are saying, I want to hurry up, I want to do it faster. I understand that there's not much you can do about this. Right, because if you did the 3 college courses as fast as possible, and few people do that, that's 54 days. Then when you add the 2 months that it takes the Department of Real Estate to give you a test date, you know, that's just the way it is. If you do this now, you could be licensed by January, in January, which, by the way, is a good time to get your license, because the market goes like this, right? And after January, you have spring and the market picks up, right? But now is when you would need to get busy in order to get through this by the end of the year.
So once we get the license, right, so you said you will tell us how to fish, so that is separate service, and how much?
We don't charge the people on our boat for fishing lessons. We don't have monthly fees, we don't have franchise fees, and we don't charge for training.
So what is the fee due? Wednesday?
Wednesday. This class, you
You
mean?
pay Wednesday?
No, you can sit through a class for free. I want to make sure you like it.
Oh, one class.
It's one class. Usually that's enough to know. You probably know already whether or not you're going to like the class, right?
Once you get your license, you said that it's valid for 4 years. So what do I have to do after 4 years?
During the 4 years, you have to take 45 hours of continuing education, which involves online, open book, cheat as much as you want to, quizzes and exams. The union provides it at no cost to its members. All right?
See you Wednesday.
See you Wednesday, great. Any other questions?
I have a
So
question.
that,
Yes.
Can you come to the Saturday class, like as many as you want?
Yes, you
If
can.
you start at-
However, the Saturday class is like a root canal,
Oh,
right? And so if your dentist would say, sure, you can come back, go ahead. Not everybody wants to have a second one.
oh,
But you can.
yeah. Okay, just.
Yes, you can. Right? I'm not gonna throw you out, but I'm just saying, it's better to do it right. It doesn't change much from one to the other. It's better to do it before, but you can take it as often as you want to.
Okay.
Once you've enrolled, you can do anything as often as you want to. All right, was that good enough?
yes.
Do you have another question?
I have another question. I was planning to take your first class, and I saw on your website there is a special offer, September discount. So is that for this class?
I know, when was that? On the website?
September, right?
That was
end
a
of-
month ago?
Yeah. So is that discount still valid for the class?
If you send me an email, I'll honor that.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
But we're-
because-
But September's gone.
Yeah, I know, but I registered for that, but
I
that
understand.
day,
If you
yeah.
send me an email, I'll
Okay.
honor that.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
thank you.
But don't don't tell those two.
I already registered.
Yeah, that's all right.
So it's worth it.
No, because that day something urgent came up and I could not